Great, welcome. If you're just joining, I'm Leanne with AEC Business Solutions, and we're excited to do our presentation of developing employee superstars today. One last time, I'll remind you all that I did send out a worksheet about an hour ago. It was from my email, lnowak@aecbusiness.com. If you have a chance to still grab that off your printer, that would be great. And if not, make sure that you've got a nice full sheet of paper so you can follow along with the exercise when June gets started. The lines are muted today due to the size of the group. As I was mentioning, you can use the chat or the Q&A feature in Zoom to be able to pose questions. June will get to those at the end. If you're having any technical difficulties or anything that I can take care of, I'll be keeping an eye on them throughout. But if you think of something at any point in the presentation, definitely use those features to pose those questions. And again, June at the end will take a Q&A. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to introduce June and bring her onto the line. Jewell is the founder and president of our company, AEC Business Solutions. Her background in this industry goes back 30 years as working as a Win2 and then Dell Tech partner. Along the way, she's always had a passion for helping firms to be very successful with their business processes and practices, and in turn to make more money. She authored the book, Find the Lost Dollar, 6 Steps to Increase Profits in Architectural, Engineering, and Environmental Firms a few years ago. And that book is a bestseller and has been very well received in the industry, enough that the content of it has become the basis now for what we do every day at AEC Business Solutions, which is training and developing employees in the areas of business practices with a byproduct of having higher profits and happier employees. So June brings experience of working with about 1,000 firms, specifically in the A&E industry for her entire career, to the table, having worked with companies all across the US and Canada, and again, just has a passion for helping companies to be successful and be profitable, and is excited to present today's content to you. So with that, we'll welcome June to the line.
Thank you so much, Leanne.
Sure, you bet.
Hi, everybody. As Leanne said, this is something I'm very, very passionate about. And my goal today is to give you lots of great ideas that you can use to help your employees to be more successful in your business. And all of us are in professional service environments. Our employees are really the key to everything that we do. And so over the years, I've discovered that companies have certain things that are holding their employees back. And we want to uncover those and look at how we can make employees happier, make their jobs easier so they're not frustrated, so they love working at your firm and they want to stay and do their best job possible. So I am going to share my PowerPoint with you today, and we'll get started. So I am a goal setter. I like to always have some goals every time I have a meeting or a project or anything that I do with clients. So these are our goals for today, and hopefully they're your goals too. First of all, I want to talk about higher profits and happier employees. What does that really mean? And how do they go together? Because I believe they really go together. And then we're going to look at, what are the challenges that some of you might be facing that are keeping your employees from being superstars? What are we seeing in the industry? And what are some of the roadblocks that employees have on a daily basis as they're working on your projects that are holding them back from being on your A team, right? Because not every employee is a top performing employee. And we want to have all of our employees as superstars, but unfortunately they're not all superstars. So we're going to look at some things that we can do to help move them towards being a superstar. As Leanne mentioned, you have a worksheet. That worksheet is really designed to give you some insight and just help you really think about what's going on in your firm as it relates to your employees, and then use that as a tool later on to figure out how to move your company forward towards having higher profits and happier employees. And then we want to give you kind of just spend a few minutes giving you an idea about some of the ways that we've helped companies develop superstar employees, and hopefully that'll give you some ideas about how it might work in your company. So let's get started and really think about high profits and happy employees. That is my personal mission. That is our mission at AEC Business Solutions, because really that's what it all comes down to. But really what this diagram tells you is that you really, one leads to the other, right? So if you have happy employees, your profits are going to be higher. And if you have very high profits, it's much easier to have happier employees, and they go together. And I don't see how you can have high profits without happy employees, and I don't really see how you can have happy employees without having very high profits. And we're going to talk a little bit about that relationship, but it's important to keep that in mind, that if you focus on both those things, then overall your company is going to be extremely successful. And I think that's what all of us really, really want. But what does make employees happy? And I really sat and gave this a lot of thought, because I look at what's going on in all of the A&E firms across the country and in Canada. And what it is they want to come to work every day and have a great time. So they want projects that are smooth and easy to work on, right? They don't want a lot of challenges. They don't want things that slow them down, get in their way. They just want to just really want to do their best job possible. And they really do want that. I really believe that. And they want to work at a firm that really values and trusts them. They want to have a firm that listens to them and hears what they say. And they want to contribute their great ideas to helping the company to be successful. They also want challenging work. So that can actually be a challenge for some firms that have a lot of repetitive, tedious projects, looking at ways to help figure out how to make it a little bit more challenging for your staff. Obviously, they want fair pay and benefits. That's probably the first thing that most of you think of when we think of recruiting, or we think about why employees leave or why they stay, is they want to be compensated fairly. And I think everybody knows that. So that's not a mystery. They also want minimal conflict. And that conflict might be with people, like clients or other employees, but it could also be conflict in their job, right? So they don't want to feel like, I'm trying to do my job, but I can't do my job because these things are standing in the way. And then very, very importantly is clear communication. And one of the challenges many firms have these days is silos. So clear communication gets to be very, very difficult in some firms. If you have a lot of offices, and in some cases those offices even have their own processes, they have their own cultures, and then what you end up with is some disjointed communication. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and how you can improve the communication in your company so that your employees feel like they're hearing what they need to hear and getting the information they need to do their best job possible. That's why we're here today. We want to figure out how to make them all superstars. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention is, and this is something that I've been really focused on, actually, ever since I read this article last July. This article came out in Engineering Magazine. This magazine is actually distributed by ACEC for the engineering members. And basically the gist of this article said that 50% of all experienced employees are going to retire in the next 3 years. Now, that was actually a shock to me. I had never heard that before last July, but I've been giving it a tremendous amount of thought, because I talk to a lot of companies every week, and I don't hear anyone talking about this. And so my whole presentation today is not going to revolve around this, but as an overall strategy for your firm, I think it's very important that you start thinking about how you're going to prepare for this situation, especially if potentially 1/3 of your current employees have over 15 years experience. how are you going to replace them? I mean, it's already very difficult to replace employees today. That's probably the number one challenge that I hear from most A&E firms. So how are you going to deal with this particular situation? If you have a lot of experienced people that are in the older, say, baby boomer generation, what are we going to do about that? And if you really think about the baby boomer generation, the key to thinking about that generation is that generation tended to stay in their jobs for a long time. They didn't hop around from company to company. Once they landed at a position in a company, they worked their way up the ladder and stayed with that firm. And so that gave your company a lot of longevity and having that solid foundation of experience that you needed. And so this is a critical statistic that is, for many of you, is going to impact your future results. And so I just wanted to bring this to the forefront because I think there are some great strategies that you can use. And really, if you think about it, the key is going to be to preparing your younger people to take the reins in the future and to maybe even accelerate their development so that they can fill those roles faster. Because we all know we can't seem to find enough of the great people that we all need right now. I was meeting with a CFO the other day of about a 200-person firm, and what he said to me was, our employees are leaving faster than we can hire new people. And so they have a lot of turnover. And that is causing a lot of problems. It's causing problems with disruption to projects, having to retrain people and reorient people to how you do things in your firm. And it's causing a lot of disruption in terms of having to spend so much money and time in recruiting, finding people, onboarding people, just getting them prepared to take over projects and introducing them to the clients. And a lot of their really great client relationships are going out the door, which is going to hurt the company long term. And so this is something that if you can reduce your turnover and keep people working at your firm longer by keeping them happy and making them feel valued and trusted, then they're going to stay longer. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today is how do we develop our team to deal with all of these scenarios that we're seeing now currently out in the industry. This is a huge problem for us that should be top of mind in terms of what we're working to try to improve the business. Now, the reality is that your employees, overall, look at your employees as the total group of employees that you have working for your firm right now. They were never trained to deal with money. And so money becomes a problem in your firm when employees don't really understand how to help you to be successful. We already talked about that you can't have high profits without happy employees, and you can't have happy employees without high profits. You can't pay them what they're worth. You can't give them the kind of bonuses and benefits that they're looking for. You know, you can't invest in your employees without the high profits. So when your employees don't understand the business side of things because they were never trained on it in college, then it gets very hard to have those conversations with them about the high profits part of your business. And they just don't understand it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well today. How do we fix that problem? We don't want to leak profits, right? So we think about our projects, and when we go to get a new project, we have an idea in mind, hopefully a very firm idea, hopefully in writing, in a budget, that we have an idea of how much money that project should bring into your company, both in revenue and in profit. And so, for example, let's say you have a project where you expect to make a 15% profit on that project. But because of things that your employees do every day, whether it's not recording their time correctly, it's not getting a change order, it's spending too many hours working on something, it's because of some ambiguity in the scope of the contract, It might be because of rework and quality control problems, because you have newer employees or you had the wrong employees working on the project. There's dozens and dozens of reasons why your projects can leak profit. But what our goal here is to look at how we can get your employees to a place where they're aware of all these things and they know what to do to help you plug all those holes in the bucket so that your projects make every penny that you deserve to make and you should be making. And that's what we work hard every day to help our clients plug all those holes and make sure their projects are making the full profit that they deserve to make. And so we're going to be looking at that in detail. So for a second, let's think about, I found these, I wanted to find something very simple. Why do employees leave their job? Because many of you told me your employees are leaving jobs and you're frustrated when they leave. Sometimes it's unexpected. The other day I had a CEO say to me, wow, I just had a horrible thing happen this week. One of our top performing guys, 6 years experience. I've been mentoring him personally. I really thought he was going to be a superstar in our firm, and he left. And to replace this person, it might take 2 other employees to do the work at the same level that this one person was able to do. And so we never want that to happen. So why do employees, why would they ever leave our firm, right? We want to make sure we do things to ensure that they don't leave. And I know we have a lot of HR professionals on our web training today, so I know this is probably a top of mind issue for you. 20% say bad pay and benefits, and that I personally think that should never happen, especially if you have the high profits, and maybe that is the problem. If you have those high profits in your firm, then you should be in the top 20, 25% of salary ranges to paying your employees. And so that shouldn't be a reason that they're leaving. And if it is, then that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. And if it's because your profits are too low, then addressing your profit issues might be something that you can work on to try to figure out how to fix that problem. And I know Leanne was at the HR Summit last week and heard a really great presentation about how important it is for firms to make a good profit so they can pay people well. And I think a lot of HR professionals don't think about it that much. So I think looking at your company's finances as a way of improving employee satisfaction is very, very important. 18% feel like they were offered a better role. That's a little bit more ambiguous, not really, you have to kind of dig into that a little bit deeper, but maybe it has to do with how they feel about their role, the quality of their projects, their role in the projects, and whether they have autonomy and things like that. 17% it was about unclear career advancement. And with all those experienced professionals leaving in the next 3 to 5 years, there are going to be a lot of opportunities available now for your younger people to step up and have a more active role, a better role in your company, and to have more advancement in your firm. But it's very important for you to lay that out really clearly for them so they know exactly what those opportunities are presenting. And so think about that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we dive into some things that you can do, and you're going to be evaluating some things that are going on in your company as well on your worksheet. And then 10% said it's a bad work environment. And those are obviously things that we need to identify. Is it the managers that they work for? What are the issues around the bad work environment? Is it the culture of the firm? And maybe you're asking people to work 60 hours a week and they're burning out. There's a lot of things that you can dive in and look at deeper, but that's really only 10% of the problem according to this survey that I found. So I believe your employees really want to be happy and productive. That's what they want more than anything. Think about the day that they start their job, right? You have really high hopes for that person. Everyone is a superstar on day one. Everyone is hitting the road, ready to do their best job. But what happens is they get to work and they get frustrated. They get frustrated by processes and systems that hold them back. They get frustrated because they don't know what to do. And I hear that every day. We have a business assessment that we do of employees about how easy it is for them to do their job. And over again, we hear, it's hard for me to do my job. It's slow. It's cumbersome. There's bottlenecks. I don't know what processes to follow. I don't know what to do. I don't know what my authority is. What am I allowed to do? I hear this all the time. Or sometimes it's, I need more training. I don't know how this works. I don't know how to use our system. So your employees want to be happy and productive. And you approach your whole focus on your team, on being happy and productive, your profits will go through the roof. And so we're going to look at that now. How do we do that? What do we need to do? Why aren't all our employees superstars? And what is holding them back? What is it that they feel like they're pushing against that isn't working? And we're really going to look at that. Now, one other thing that I want to mention is if one of your strategic goals in your firm is to grow, growing can be just as painful as not having enough work. Because when you're growing, things have to change, right? They never stay the same. Things are moving. And we all know people love to change, right? So change is difficult. And sometimes when you're growing, you're adding people too fast. When you're adding people too fast, then you might be hiring the wrong people. You might have to settle for people that aren't as good because you can't find the right people. Maybe you don't have time to onboard them. They're not getting enough mentoring and time spent together up front because everybody's so busy. And then you have people with different skill levels. So one size doesn't fit all for onboarding. You have to be more aware of each individual person's capabilities. One big risk to your growth is your project managers. Do they have the training they need? Do they know what to do? Do they understand how the business makes a living? Do they know how to manage projects so that projects make profit? And do they know how to guide those employees to better success? Does everyone know how we do it, right? I find based on our survey that at least 40% of employees don't know how the company does things. And so what ends up happening is employees design their own processes and spreadsheets because they either don't like the processes that are out there or they don't understand them. Or sometimes they've never been shown the process or taught the process. And so what you end up with is a lot of inconsistency and lack of process. And so we're going to talk about how you can address that. Because if you want to grow and you tackle these things, your company will soar and you will be in the top 25% of companies with high profits and happy employees. So let's look at what some of the challenges are that your employees on an individual level will face, right? We just talked about what your company is facing, but your employees are also facing challenges every day, right? Maybe you have some bad projects and bad clients. And normally what I see is when you have projects with low fees, then you're going to have bad clients. And when you have bad clients, your employees aren't happy. Because when you have low fees, they're trying to get the job done on budget, but it's almost impossible. Because to do a quality job takes more work than what your client wants to pay for it. Also, when you have bad clients, they're asking for a lot of things for free. They want all these changes, but they don't want to pay for it. So think about that. Or do you have some bad clients that maybe you should get rid of? Or is there a strategy you can put in place to get higher fee projects? Your employees aren't always sure where they fit in your firm. We talked about that a few minutes ago. What are their opportunities and what is their career advancement? Maybe they're not being given adequate direction. So on a daily basis, they're trying to work on their projects, but they're not sure what they should be doing or how much time it should take or what's in scope, what's out of scope. They just don't They don't know that. There isn't a lot of accountability, right? So maybe nobody's really talking to them about their goals, measuring their goals. Maybe there aren't a lot of rewards and incentives in place for them to be high performers. And you want to really incentivize your people to do a great job. And then very often a very key factor for holding employees back from doing their best job is lack of training and business skills. And because your firms are so busy right now, a lot of companies are holding back on giving people training. They're saying, well, we're too busy. But the opposite is actually true. When you train your employees, they'll be more efficient and it'll save them time, and they'll actually have more time to work on projects. So it's kind of a catch-22, but it's something I think that if you're willing to deal with it, you'll find that it makes a big difference. So let's look at what you can do to help your employees to become superstars. And this is where your worksheet comes into play. I'd like you to pull your worksheet out. If you don't have your worksheet, don't worry. I'd like you to number a piece of paper 1 to 10. And you're going to score your company from 1 to 10. 1 means you need a lot of work in this area. And a 10 means that you're doing a great job and it doesn't really need a lot of your attention. Most firms, honestly, are somewhere in the middle, maybe on the low end, maybe on the high end. It's rare for companies to be a 1 or a 10 in most of these areas, although there may be 1 or 2 areas that you need a lot of work in, and there may be 1 or 2 areas that you've already nailed it, and you don't need to focus on too much. But the purpose of this worksheet is to help you identify at the end of this web training where you can focus, where your employees do need your attention so that you can help them to be superstars. So let's work on our worksheet now. And what I want to do is try to paint a picture for you of what a 10 really does look like. And then you can figure out where your company is at right now. So companies that have superstar employees have very well-defined roles and career tracks in place for their staff. They have written job descriptions that are very clear, that really describe that person's responsibilities, and they are accurate. And what I mean by accurate is what the person does every day aligns with their job description. Now, I have found very often for project managers, what they do every day doesn't align with their job description. And so really getting that connection in place so that when your job description aligns with your responsibilities, then it's very clear what areas you need training and where you need mentorship, and whether you're really prepared to be in that role. You want to give your employees clear, defined career tracks that they know exactly what competencies they need to get to the next level of that career track. And those competencies should be very clearly laid out for your different levels of people. And each employee should have an individual professional development plan that's written down, and that's what you can use for their reviews. Now, I'm not a big fan of annual reviews. I don't think they work, because very often what ends up happening is you're bringing up things from 6 months ago that the employee doesn't even remember. So think about, and that's a whole nother web training that we could do, is performance management, which I often have in-depth conversations with our clients about. But think about how you can give your employees individual professional development plans. So I'd like you to rate your company on a scale of 1 to 10 on these areas, these criteria. How well is your company doing in really formalizing this process and making your employees very clear where they fit in your organization and what their opportunities are for advancement? So go ahead and give your company a score of 1 to 10. So next, your project management processes, your accounting processes. Think about your processes. Think about your project life cycle, right? So the project life cycle, you find out about a lead on a project. you start to pursue an opportunity. You manage that opportunity. You decide you're going to bid on that opportunity. You create an estimate. You create a proposal. You maybe you have interviews and other things to go through that opportunity process. You're documenting information in your CRM, hopefully, about that process. Then let's say you win the project. You have a contract and contract negotiation, and then you're going to have a project kickoff. And then you're going to manage the project. You're going to track time and expense against it. You're going to have a budget. Your PMs are going to monitor those budgets. They're going to schedule people. They're going to realign their resources. They're going to be managing the financial aspects of the project. And you're going to have project management meetings. And then you're going to build those projects. You're going to collect the money on those projects. You're going to have areas where you need to talk to clients about change orders and scope creep. And then finally, when your project is done, you want to evaluate how that project's done, and you want to have a project debrief. So if you think of the continuum of that process, are those processes documented? Are they working? Do your employees understand them? Are they following them? Do they know what to do every day? And are those processes and systems that you have designed to make your employees' life easier? Or are they kind of all over the place, not really documented? Every office kind of has a different way of doing it. Where are you on that continuum? And I want you to really think about that, because aside from training your employees to understand what they need to do every day, this is probably the second most important thing that's going to determine whether your employees are happy or not. Because when they come to work every day and everything's all over the place for them and they're not really clear what they're supposed to be doing, they get frustrated. They get really frustrated and they complain. And when they complain to other employees, and then everybody starts to complain, and you know what happens from there. So think about your processes. I'd like you to give your company a score of 1 to 10 on how great your processes and systems are supporting your employees in being a superstar, in doing their best job possible. So go ahead and give your company a score 1 to 10. So the next area is in your hiring and onboarding. And hiring, honestly, is probably one of the hardest things that you're doing right now, because you just can't find great people. And I know that's probably something you all are very focused on. And so hiring, I mean, the only advice I can give with hiring is to hire people that do really want to be superstars, that they have that ambition to be a superstar. And that they really fit with your culture, and your values. So that's, hiring is obvious, I think. Onboarding is a whole different thing. Ironically, because of how busy you're getting right now, of all the firms, most of the firms I talk to are extremely busy. Even the firms that I talk to that have low profits still are really busy. But onboarding sometimes takes a back seat. And what ends up happening is employees get a few days of attention when they first start at your firm, and then maybe they're handed over to somebody, or they're just put as part of a team, and they're out there a little bit on their own to try to figure out what to do. How do I do this? How do I do that? And what I see across the board is that it can be done a lot better. And I really want you to think about that. What happens to your employee when they start at your company? Is there a documented process and procedure for really ensuring that employees, especially in their first 90 days with your firm, have clear-cut goals? You have specific ways of measuring how they're doing, getting regular feedback from them about how they're doing, and that they have certain people in the company that are, monitoring their success and mentoring them and helping them along in the process. So go ahead and give your company a score of 1 to 10. how well you think your company is doing with hiring and onboarding. And obviously this is a very important part of ensuring that you're going to have high profits and happy employees and superstar employees. So the next area is recognition. And recognition is, I believe, is something that needs to be intentional. And that means it takes some effort. Now, you might think recognition shouldn't take a lot of effort, right? So you should just say thank you to people when they do a good job. Maybe occasionally you recognize people formally, but it can go a lot further than that. And there are things you can do. And I actually gave a whole 1-hour talk about recognition programs at ACEC a couple years ago. And it actually amazed me. In the room, there were probably about 100 people in the room. And I asked them, how many of you have a formal recognition program? It was probably only about 20% of the audience. So the majority of A&E firms do not have a formal recognition program where where they have specific things they do on a regular basis to evaluate and recognize employees. And some types of recognition can be really simple and inexpensive, like calling people out, like peer recognition is a huge one, training your project managers how to recognize their staff. There's lots of things. And so this is something that, and especially with HR professionals, I feel are more focused on recognition. This may be an area you guys have already tackled. And if so, that's really great. That's going to go a long way to making your employees happier and feeling valued. So go ahead and give your company a score 1 to 10. If you're a 10, that means you have a formal, written, official recognition program that is in full swing and you're using it, right? It's actually being launched and used on a regular basis by all of your staff. And it's effective, right? Is it effective? Is it working? So go ahead and give your company a score 1 to 10. Okay, so next is automation. As Leanne mentioned in the beginning, this is my background. I spent 25 years helping companies implement Deltek. And what I saw, and it actually is one of the main reasons I actually wrote my book years ago, is that the majority of firms out there, whether you're using Deltek Vision, Ajira, Clearview, BST, BQE Core, Microsoft, Oracle, it doesn't really matter what product you use. The majority of firms out there are only using 20 to 25% of the features of their program. Many firms are not using the resource planning and project management part of their system. Many of them are struggling with the CRM. So their whole marketing, lead generation, lead management, and opportunity management practices are lacking a lot of process and automation. And so this can be a big area of focus for you. And this one actually may be more top of mind for you. But one of the things that I want to point out to you is a lot of firms feel they can solve some of their problems by purely implementing a new system. And so if you think of the continuum of people, process, and systems, I actually think that whole continuum is backwards. If you try to put a system in place and your employees don't have the foundation of even understanding why it's important to use that system, they're not going to use it and they're going to fight it. They're going to resist. Have you ever tried to put something in place in your company and your employees resisted? It's because deep down inside, they don't really understand the why behind it all. They think it's cumbersome. They think it's that you're asking them to do things that take extra time. And so you need to deal with the mindset of your employees first, then put great business practices in place. I call them best practices. You can also call them processes, but actually employees like when you call them best practices. And then then put your system in place. And when you do that, you're going to have employees that are already ready and excited to have those new systems and best practices in place. Automation is something that can drive your productivity way forward. The ROI of return on investment for automation is huge. But unless your people are ready for it, it's going to fail in many cases. But the main point here is your automation that you have right now, all of your systems, your accounting, your project management, your marketing and business development practices, systems, are they supporting your employees? Or do you have redundant processes, non-integrated systems, employees who are wasting time every day looking for information or are not able to do their job and in a sense, creating all kinds of spreadsheets and things like that just to get their job done? So I really want you to think about that. And I'll tell you, if I go into a company and they have like 20, 30 spreadsheets, then I know that their automation can be massively improved. Because much of what you'll find on those spreadsheets is actually in your system. It's just somebody is reinventing the wheel. So think about your systems. I want you to give your company a score 1 to 10 on how well your systems are working to support your employees and help them make their job better. So next we're going to talk about communication. And communication is probably something we could spend days talking about. And it can go in a lot of different directions, but basically communication comes down to having a process of communication. It has to do with transparency. What information are you sharing with employees? How are you sharing it? How often are you sharing it? Is the information you're sharing effective? Is it what they need to have in order to do their jobs? Very often, I find that project managers get reports that they don't understand. It's missing information that they really need, or it's not timely. And then I also find that when project managers are managing their staff, they're not giving their employees the information they need to do a great job either. So if you look at the continuum of communication from your leadership team to your managers, from your managers down to your staff, where are those communication gaps? Is the communication clear? Is it frequent enough? Is it the right information? Is it presented correctly? And most important, do your employees understand it? Are they getting information that they don't even understand? If you give employees a whole lot of accounting reports with words like WIP and AR and net multiplier and days sales outstanding and net revenues and all of these terms, and I know most of you have reports with those words on them, if you're giving people those reports but they don't even know what those things mean or how they're calculated or where that information came from, then the communication is going to fail them. And they're going to feel frustrated, and they're going to feel like, what am I supposed to do with this report? I don't even know what this means. And that makes them feel frustrated. So really look at how your firm's communication is supporting all of your employees, your project managers, even your leadership team. Are they getting the information they need to make good business decisions? And all throughout your firm, how can you improve that communication to ensure that your employees are able to do a superstar job? And so give your company a score 1 to 10 on your communication. So the next thing we want to talk about is getting feedback from your employees. And many firms will, especially if you're in the HR side of the business, many firms do a great job of communicating with their employees and getting feedback about benefits and salaries and employee engagement surveys. And those are extremely valuable. And I think if you are doing that, that's a very helpful way of figuring out, are your employees happy? And if not, why they may not be happy. But we talked earlier about employees feeling valued and trusted. And the number one thing, besides recognition, that you can do to make your employees feel valued and trusted is ask for their opinion. Ask your employees, how can we be better? We actually have a tool that we use to do this. It's a survey where we ask employees, how can we be better in 9 areas of the business? And really what it's designed to do is get their feedback and give them a voice in your firm. Because when employees feel like they can contribute to making the company better and they can voice those frustrations that they have, let's say you have a group of employees that are frustrated because it's such a manual process to do the scheduling of the employees, and it's a lot of manual back and forth, and it's just not working. Or let's say that they have to ask a client for money for a change order, but they feel scared to do that. When you are able to give them a voice and enable them to tell you those things that are bothering them, especially on an anonymous basis, they're going to be really honest with you and share those things that they feel could really make the company better and make their job easier for them. And that makes them feel valued. And you can use that feedback to help them to make those improvements in your business so that you are removing all those bottlenecks and frustrations that they have and making their job easier. And when you make their job easier, they're going to make you more money. And it's, as I said, that's a cycle. Higher profits lead to happier employees, and happier employees lead to higher profits. So all of these things, both of those things that you want the most to have high profits and happy employees, they're going to tell you what you need to know to get it. Believe me. I talked to thousands of employees over the last year, and the types of things that the advice that they give, the ideas that they have are amazing and really help the companies to be better companies. So give your company a score of 1 to 10 about how you're engaging and leveraging your employees to give you feedback and giving them a voice in how the company could be run better. So next thing that you can do to help your employees to be successful and happy is to focus your culture on business. And I want you to think for a minute, one of the things that I work on with companies that maybe you never really thought about, but it exists every day in your firm, is that your culture is what you talk about, right? Your culture is the types of things that you talk about with your employees every day. And if you think about it, in the typical architecture, engineering, environmental, geotech firm, what you're thinking and talking about is high quality projects, safety, technical excellence, and keeping clients happy. And so if that's what you're talking about, right? And then so that I look at that as being, that is a culture focused on excellence, right? Technical excellence and happy clients. And believe me, technical excellence is extremely important, right? You have to have that. You have to have it for risk management. You have to have it for your reputation of your firm, to ensure your projects are successful, to ensure that, you know, that your clients keep hiring you. But what is missing in the culture is what you're talking about in your business. You all work in a business. All of your employees work in a business. But again, they didn't learn about the business in college. So if you're talking about the business, but they don't understand the business, then it's kind of going in one ear and out the other. And if you're not talking about the business, then they are just going to focus on technical excellence and keeping the client happy, and your budgets are just going to go out of control, and you're going to lose money on projects. Again, remember that bucket with the holes in it. Your projects are going to leak profits because your employees aren't focused on business. So transforming your culture where you're talking about excellent quality keeping your client happy, and how your projects could be more financially successful, that is going to transform the behavior of employees every day. The other thing that it does remarkably is it makes your clients happier, because when they realize they're dealing with a business savvy project manager that is trying to help keep their project on budget and avoid change orders, they would rather work with a firm like that. They would rather work with a project manager that's business savvy, because they feel like that project manager is looking after their best interests on the job. And so this is going to give you happy employees, because they're going to feel like they're contributing to the success of the business, which in turn is creating higher profits, which is going to enable them to get paid more money and have better benefits and a more defined career track and opportunities in your business. So it all goes together. And so developing your culture to be focused on business is very important. So give your company a score 1 to 10 on how focused your business is and your culture is on business excellence, on financial and high profits. Is your company talking about high profits, or is that something that we don't like to talk about too much? What I see is a company that's highly focused on business culture is also sharing a large majority of their financial information with their staff. That also defines a business-focused culture. So transparency is another aspect of a business-focused culture. So give your company a score 1 to 10 on your culture. Next, we have accountability. Accountability is having clear-cut goals, measuring those goals. Those goals need to be financial goals. So you need to have some key metrics that you're using to measure every employee and other aspects like projects and utilization and things like that. They should be measurable. You should be measuring them on a regular basis, and then you should be incentivizing and rewarding your employees and giving them constant feedback about how they can help, how they can achieve those goals. And accountability in some cases, in some firms, becomes a dirty word, because a lot of firms feel like accountability means punishment. But accountability isn't punishment. It should be the opposite of that. It should be positive. It should be rewarding people for helping them achieve their goals. And if you can create that as part of your culture, having that business-focused culture where accountability is expected, having high profits is expected, your employees will actually be much happier. I want you to think about your top performing employees. Think for a minute about your superstars. I know you can picture them in your mind, right? You have, Mark, you have Emily, you have John, you have Lauren, you have Eric. These are employees in your firm that are performing really well. And you know how to measure that, right? So you know who those top performers are. But in too many firms, everybody gets the same bonus, everybody gets the same pay raise. The people who aren't performing don't get called out for it. And the people who are performing well aren't getting the recognition and rewards that they should. And so what happens in a culture like that, where accountability is minimized, is your top performers don't feel valued. Because there is not a top performer under the sun that minds accountability. They love accountability. They want more accountability. The people who don't want accountability are your bottom performing people. And if you have employees on your firm that are not performing and it's ignored, that is going to upset your best employees. So putting a culture of accountability in place, I like to call it positive accountability, is very important. And if you're not getting rid of your bottom performing people, then you're always going to have a mediocre staff and you're going to have mediocre profits. And you're going to have unhappy clients because there's going to be problems on your projects with those mediocre employees. and it's causing more problems than it's worth. So if you have A employees, B employees, and C employees, if you can't bring your B employees up to an A and bring your C employees at least up to a B, then your C employees should go away, and your B employees are going to need a lot of focus to try to get them up to be an A employee, an A team employee. And that's all around accountability and all of the things that we're talking about today. So give your company a score 1 to 10 on how well your company has implemented a clear path of accountability and performance management. And again, there's so many more things we could talk about today with accountability, but today I just want you to really be thinking about your own company and at a high level, where are you at with this? And then finally, training employees on business and financial information and systems. The number one thing that we hear back from in our business assessment survey of employees is, I need more training. Project managers need more training to be better project managers. Many employees report back to us they need more training on software. Many of them report back to us that they don't understand the company's processes, or they're cumbersome and they don't know how to do their job. And if you think about that, how can employees possibly be superstars in that environment? Now, the reason we talk about training them on business and financial information, again, it goes back to having a highly transparent organization where you're sharing information with your employees, but if they don't understand that information, it's impossible for them to hit their goals and hold them accountable. So having a foundation of business acumen is very, very important. And giving them that foundation of business excellence and being business savvy architects or engineers is going to help them develop in their role in your company, allow them to move higher and higher up in your leadership roles. And again, with 50% of your experienced people leaving in the next 3 years, you need people to step up and move into those leadership roles. And you have to have clear business leadership succession strategies to ensure that even your people that right now have 5 years experience, that much more quickly in their career path, you can move them up to be project managers and to take more distinct leadership roles in your company. And they can't do that without having business savvy. And so giving them that business and financial training is very important. So I want you to give your company a score 1 to 10 on where your employees are with being business savvy employees, and particularly project managers in that group. And maybe even at your leadership team level, it's not uncommon for me to hear from a leadership team that, we're so focused on getting new work and working on our projects, we don't spend enough time managing the business and focusing on what the business needs and the financial information. So give your company a score 1 to 10 on business training. So now you can add your scores up. So go ahead and add them up. And there's good news here, even if you have a low score. And the good news is the lower your score, the more money that you can find. As Leanne mentioned, my book is called Find the Lost Dollars. And that's because when you have that bucket with the money leaking out of your projects and you start to plug the holes in the bucket, you're going to find more money. You're going to find more revenues. You're going to find more, you're going to lower your expenses, and you're going to find more profits, a lot more profits. And so if you have a very low score, 10 to 25, 26 to 50, all that means is there's a lot of money there that you can go find right now. And you can do some of the things that we've been talking about and find that money. 51 to 75, the average firm is in that range. Some on the lower end of that, some on the higher end of that. There's still a lot of money to find. And even if you're 76 to 90, you still have money to find. There's still holes in that bucket. Maybe you've plugged a whole bunch of them in recent years, but there's still some holes that you can work on. If you're in the 91 to 100, I like to call that a gold star company. I'd love to hear from you. If you're a gold star company, send me an email. I'd love to hear about it. I don't run into many of them, though, I have to admit. But if you are one, that is very exciting, and you're doing a great job. So now you have your score. How do you do all these things, right? How do you take all these things that we were talking about and put them all together? Well, we've been doing this for about 4 years and working with thousands and thousands of architecture, engineering, environmental firm employees. And really, it's only really a 3-step process to get to have higher profits and happier employees. And so we've put together a program for you where we guide you through the process of increasing your profits and having happier employees. It starts on the bottom there with assessing your business operations with that survey that we talked about, because you really can't start to figure out what to do next until you get the right data. You need to have some data about what's really going on every day and how effective your processes and systems are or aren't, and whether they're really supporting your employees to be superstars or not. So number one, you want to assess your business operations. Next, educate your employees. The way we do it is we teach your employees all the things they need to learn about how to deliver profitable projects for your company, all the way through the project life cycle, from marketing and sales through estimating, contracts, project management, project budgeting, resource management, estimating and scope management, managing out-of-scope services, through cash flow and billing and collections, and client relationship management. Educating employees about how does the company make a living, teaching them financial management and what metrics actually mean, and all the language behind an A&E firm's financial success. And what happens is in that 10-week program, it transforms their mindset and their behavior. If you think about whether you've ever sent an employee away to a 2-day boot camp, how many of you have sent your employees away to a 2-day boot camp, and what happens when they return back to your company? Do they change their behavior? Do they do anything different than they did before? And usually they don't. And that's because they have the same environment that they're working in, the same level of accountability, the same processes and systems, and everyone else is still doing things the old way. So it needs to be an intentional process and effort of training people in groups that's going to transform your organization and change people's behavior so they're actually doing things differently. And then the third component is to take all of the feedback and information you got from the survey and from group discussions that we have during the training program, where your employees are giving you ideas first and suggestions for running the business better. And we start to implement better processes and procedures, best practices, things that you can do to increase employee efficiency and happiness. What is going to make our employees more efficient? What systems do we need? What processes do we need? Your employees will be happy to tell you that. And they'll be happy to tell you whether things are working or not. And when you're able to do these 3 steps, you will hit your profit targets on your projects. And believe me, your employees will be much happier because their job is going to be so much easier. And because you're listening to them, you're taking their suggestions, and they will feel more valued. So a little bit about how we do that. We, again, have our business management assessment. It takes about a week. We can give you a tremendous amount of data about what's going on in your firm and with your employees. and really understand what you need to do next to make your employees' jobs easier and your company more efficient. And then the next thing we do is through the Find the Lost Dollars training program is both online, a combination of online training and group discussions that are designed to get your employees to be very interactive and participate in really vibrant discussions that help them understand how to apply best practices to your firm and how your firm can be better and how to change their behavior on a daily basis. What do your project managers actually need to do every day that's different than what they're doing now? And getting them to actually start doing it. Feeling comfortable asking for change orders. Developing better scopes and estimates. Managing their project budgets on a weekly basis. Making sure they have the right employees working on the projects. And then billing and collecting everything that your firm is entitled to get so that you can make the profits that you deserve on your projects. So our business management training program is for your project managers. It's for all of your employees. And we have had such amazing results. On average, our clients are seeing about 4% increase in profit in less than a year. And that's every single year. If you think about what your write-offs are, and if you're measuring those write-offs, anywhere from, on average, $250,000 to $1 million a year in write-offs you might have. And if you could just get half of that money back per year, think what that would mean for your company and how you could share that with your employees to make them happier. One of the things that make our program so much more successful for your company is that it's convenient for you. So your employees don't have to leave the office. That makes them happier too. They don't have to leave their family. They don't have the struggle of having to figure out how to fit training into their billable work. The group meetings only take up 1 hour a week, so they're customized to your firm, so you can apply everything they're learning right back to your company. And the program is focused on results. We actually ask every employee to try to find $10,000 in 10 weeks. It's a fun little competition that we have. It's going to immediately hit your bottom line, and it's going to provide an instant return on investment for you and your company. And then the results you're going to get are that you're going to see some small changes to your processes and systems, and you're also going to know exactly what to do next to either tweak or massively overhaul some of your processes and systems so that your employees' jobs are much easier and they're less frustrated. We guarantee you will have a measurable increase in profit from our program. And the only reason we can do that is because we know that if you're fully committed and embrace this idea of really committing to helping your employees to be more successful in your company, that you will have higher profits and you will have happier employees. So if you would like to see higher employee performance, if you want to develop your future leaders and have higher profits, if you want to improve the accountability in your company and increase your sales, and obviously you want to retain your best clients and your employees, that's what we're going to be focused on and trying to help you succeed. If you would like to learn more about this, we would really like to have a short call with you to see if this makes sense for your company. We want to make sure that your company's goals and commitment and what you really are trying to accomplish is aligned with the goals of our program. So we'll schedule about a 20-minute call to review what your goals are for your company and make sure that we believe you're going to be really successful with our program. And if we think that you're going to be really successful, then we might suggest some next steps in learning more about your company and about how this program might fit into helping you achieve what you're trying to achieve in your business. Leanne's put a link in the chat box to go ahead and schedule that call with us. We'd love to talk to you further about it and make sure that you're a good fit for our program, because again, the only reason we can guarantee that you're going to be successful is because we make sure that all of our clients are in close alignment with the commitment that it's going to take to get great success from our program. And again, this is a 10-week program for groups of, anywhere from 10 to 20 employees at a time. Many of our employees put their whole company through our program over a year or 2 years. And over those 2-year period, they see unbelievable transformations in their culture and in their profits. And it's so exciting when you can see that happen. So if you'd like to stop the leaking money from your projects and let us guide you to higher profits and happier employees, please go ahead and sign up for this 20-minute call, and we'll be happy to work with you. And you will be receiving an email after the webinar is over with copies of the slides, a copy of a link to the recorded webinar, and the link to go ahead and sign up for a call if you would like to think about it and go ahead and sign up for a call. Or if you want to share this information and your worksheet with others in your company, I highly recommend that. Go sit down with everybody with your worksheet and talk about it. And that's a good way to start building consensus and get everybody on the same page, and have them watch the webinar and sit around in your conference room and talk about it, and make sure you can get everybody excited and motivated to make the changes you need so you can stop those leaking profits and get your employees to all be superstars. So again, somebody asked, will we get a copy of the recording? Yes, we will. Not that we will get you a copy of the recorded webinar. It usually takes a few hours, and you want to share it with your project managers. That's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. Actually, take your worksheet and have your project managers score these areas and see how they feel about it. Obviously, the employee survey that we do is much more in depth, and you're going to get a lot of very detailed data. But that's a great way to start, is with the worksheet. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And if not, and you think of any later, go ahead and reach out to us, sign up for a 20-minute call. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know I've gone over our time today. Thank you so much for attending. I really do appreciate it, and I hope it was really valuable for you. And please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can do to help you to be more successful and get your employees at a much higher level of performance. So thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.